Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Hope you all are doing great and staying safe. My name is Arpish Srivastav, and as you are aware that recently I have started a Learning Canvas app in a week challenge where you can learn to design a Canvas app within a week. As part of the Power Guide video series, today I'm going to discuss about the fundamentals of Power Apps. So let's get started with our first video of the series, the introduction of Power Apps. So in this video, actually, I'm going to discuss about what is the Power Apps, what are the use cases, what are the business requirement where we need to use the Power Apps, and what are the customers that they are using the Power Apps in their real world projects. So before getting into the session, I just wanted to give a brief introduction about myself. My name is Arpish Srivastav, and I am a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm a Dynamic 365 and Power Platform architect working in Capgemini. I'm a Community 365 Saturday ambassador. I'm a blogger. We've been writing since 2014 and have been organizing and speaking in a lot of worldwide events and been conducting training for the technical folks as well. I've been awarded with the top 100 CRM blogs, and recently I've been awarded with the Power Community Ambassador of 2020 awards. After this session or anytime, if you want to get in touch with me, you can connect with me through various social media channels. You can scan this QR code and you can simply connect it with me. Okay, you can connect with me through my personal blogs, my LinkedIn's, my YouTube, my Twitter account, and my Instagram. So I usually upload a lot of interesting stuff related to the Power Platform components. And especially on the YouTube channel, I'm going to upload all these Canvas app learning videos. And in the future, I'm going to start this video series for the Power Apps portals, the model driven app, or for the Microsoft Teams, or the Power Virtual Agent, and for the Power BIs as well. So please subscribe to this channel to not missing any kind of updates or the notifications. As far as the Canvas app course is concerned, I've actually jotted down the 30 chapters for you. So all these 30 chapters is related to the Canvas app. Starting from the introduction of the Power Apps and the PowerApps Fx language that Microsoft recently announced in this Ignite. What is the PowerApps Fx language? So I'm going to discuss about this in this topic. And then we're going to discuss about in the upcoming videos the types of Power Apps, setup Dynamic 365 and the Power Platform environment. So from chapter 3 to chapter 30, all the videos are going to be the live implementations. So before getting into the live implementations, I have actually kept 2 sessions as a theory session because this is a very important for the functional consultant, the pre-sales guy, or the architects to know the fundamentals of the Power Apps at least before, because if you want to create a Canvas app, if you want to create a Power Apps, first of all you need to understand that what is the business use case or what are the requirements from where I can fit in this kind of component. All right, so let's get started and discuss about the today's agenda. In this video, I'm going to discuss about first the Power Platform because that is the basic thing to understand the Power Apps. Then obviously I'm going to discuss about the Power Apps. We have some use cases so that you can simply understand that where we can fit in the Power Apps, what are the use cases, what are the business requirement, where you can propose the Power Apps to your client or to your customers. And the last but not the least are all the customers or the clients that they are using the Power Apps in their real world projects. All right. All right. So what is Power Platform? To understand the concept of Power Platform, first of all, what is the basic feature required to design any application? I've been discussing about since long in my so many videos. So if you will check it out my last videos where I have given the fundamental of Dynamic 365, Dynamic CRMs, and the Power Platform. I asked this question a couple of times from a lot of community folks that what are the basic feature you required to design any application, regardless of any platform, regardless of any language that you are using. So what are the basic features required to design an application? The first thing is the UI. Any application that you're going to build in any languages or the platform, the first thing you require to build the UI. Now this UI belongs to your mobile UI or your tablet UI, your desktop UI. So you need to create the responsive app. But nowadays, if you already know that the everyone, all the organization, all the businesses are transforming into the digital way of working. So they want to have all the applications, they want to have all the information on their fingertips. So that is the basic requirement, that you need to create a responsive apps, whether it's a mobile app, whether it's a tablet app, or whether it's or the desktop app. The second feature that is required is the insights of your data. You need to have the graphical implementation, graphical way to design your data, graphical representation of your data. You need to understand the data through the dashboard, through the reportings or the analytics. So that is also a basic need of any application, because there might be the possibility that your database is having, or the application is having the millions of records, and your admin or if your sales manager wants to check the performance of each individual salesperson, they cannot have a look at all the millions of records and can analyze the data. The best way to do that is the analytics or the dashboards or the reportings. So that is the most important feature that any business or any client or any organization is looking for. The third thing is the complex business logic, because if you're building in any application, you need to have some sort of logic that you need to perform based on the trigger, based on the manual trigger, or based on the on-demand basis. And you need to also do the automation, you need to also do the integrations as well. Nowadays, if I'm talking about the digital transformation, all the application that you are building, all the application in the marketing that you're using, expect that they are integrating with the social media channels, whether it's a Facebook, whether it's a Twitter, it's a LinkedIn, or any sort of social media channels. Apart from the social media channels, a lot of applications expect that their applications should be integrated with some other sort of applications as well, so that they can get the 360-degree view of the customer overview. So that is the most important thing. You need to perform the complex business logic, the automations, and the integrations. And the last but not the least is the chatbot. Chatbot is one of the most important feature that application is looking for nowadays, because chatbot is the way where your customer, where your call center agent doesn't need to interact with your customers all the time. The chatbots can interact with your customer and can reduce the overhead of your call center agents, so that they can do the meaningful tasks and they can do the productive activities. So Microsoft thought of these all the sort of the features or the requirement of any clients, right? And they came up with a new concept called Power Platform. What is Power Platform? So Power Platform is basically the combination of four components, and these four components are basically used to design these four requirements. The first is the Power Apps, which is basically used to design the UI. And it is not only used to design the UI, it comes up with a lot of out of box features, like business process flows, like business rules. So business process flow is basically used to guide your user what they have to do next. Business rules, we are actually using to perform the complex validations. Okay, so we have some other features like forms, like views, like security rules, like dashboards, reporting. So these kind of features that Power Apps comes with out-of-box features, along with the AI capabilities as well. The second is the Power BI component that is basically used to design the analytics, the reportings, and the dashboards. The third component is the Power Automate that is basically used to perform the complex business logic, the automations, and the integrations. And the last is the Power Virtual Agent. So Power Virtual Agent is basically used to build a chatbot. So the interesting fact is that all these four components that is provided by Microsoft is a low code, no code solution. Why Microsoft using this term, the low code and the no code? So that means if you have to implement these four requirements, if you want to integrate these four features in any of the application, either you have to use the low code, means a minimum amount of code, either expressions, the formulas and all, or you don't have to use any kind of code. You just need to have the understanding of the PowerPoint, where you don't need to write the code in order to design the slide deck. So when you design a slide, you don't need to write the code. You just need to drag and drop the controls that is provided by the Microsoft. Same like then Excel, if you are writing a formula, if you have to concatenate two values in the Excel, you don't need to write a code. You just simply use the formulas. So these kind of stuff you need to understand in order to understand the components of our platform. Right, but in this video, I'm going to discuss about the Power Apps concepts. Rest of all the components I will be discussing in my upcoming session. But today in this session, I'm going to discuss about the Power Apps. What is Power Apps? So as I already told you, Power Apps is basically a component of a Power Platform that allows the business person, the IT developers, and the full stack developers to design an application using Azure Cloud Services to scale from personal use to the enterprise level uses. I made this term highlighted like business person, IT developers, and the full stack developers. The reason being, these kind of apps that is provided by the Microsoft is not only for the app developers or someone who is having the technical background or someone who is having a very good coding skills. The person who is a business person who is interacting with the client and they don't know about the C Sharp, .NET and the JavaScript, HTML at all. They are not from the coding background. They can still design this application. So how interesting it is. IT developers who are having a very basic knowledge of the coding languages of the programming languages, they can also create the Power Apps. And obviously, the full stack developers who think far beyond the features provided by the Microsoft. So if they want to create their own features, if they want to create their own component, they can allow to do that. So full stack developers can also leverage the Power Apps, or they can create their own complex components as well. And Power Apps use the Azure cloud services in the backend. So all these services are being hosted in the Azure. So all these services are being used by the Power Apps hosting on the Azure. So it is not only used for the personal purpose, but we can also use for the enterprise level of Power Apps as well. So what is the difference between personal and the enterprise level? So there are various need where a business person can create an app quickly to perform their business need. So they can simply go and create a Power Apps to resolve their business need. For example, the calculations, for example, for any sort of announcements. So for these kind of things. At the enterprise level, when you are building a very high professional app for your customer or your clients. Power Apps can be designed either from the scratch or using the Microsoft provided existing templates. So that is one of the most interesting thing about the Power Apps that, in the earlier days of the Dynamic 365, you have been hearing that there is a limitation or the restriction in the Dynamic 365 to enhance its UI, because a lot of client wants to create or want to have the application in their own organization UI guidelines terminologies. They don't want to use the out of box dynamic 365 layout or the or the colorings and the themes and all. They want to create the app from the scratch as per their organization UI guidelines. So that is the most important thing about the Power Apps, that either you can create the app from a scratch or from a blank canvas where you can drag and drop the controls, you can design the layout as per the business need, or you can use the Microsoft provided existing templates as well, so that you don't need to create the app from the scratch. You can simply use the Microsoft provided existing templates. For example, if you are creating an app for the HR manager, for creating an app for the sales manager. So for example, if you're creating the service desk app or the help desk app or some field inspection apps. So for these kind of apps, you don't need to create the app from the scratch. You can just go to the Power Apps admin center. You can create the apps from the templates and can reuse the features as well. Power Apps are basically designed either for the internal users or the external users. So obviously, the question is who is going to use the Power Apps? So there are basically two types of user in any organizations. The first is internal users who is working within your organization, so that we call it as the employees. And the second types of users are the external users or your customers. So there are basically third type of users are the vendors or the stakeholders or your partners that are not the internal users, not the external user. They are basically a semi-internal users. So Power Apps are basically designed for the internals and the external users as well. But in my next video, I'm going to discuss about what are the Power Apps available for the internal users and what are the Power Apps available for the external users. And these apps comes with the out-of-box features like controls, So controls means, if you are aware about the the PowerPoint, there are a lot of controls you can drag and drop on the slide decks, right? So the same way, the Power Apps provides you the controls like drop downs, like date time picker, like text box, like label, the bank control. So these are kind of controls that comes out of box with the Power Apps, and you can design your application using these controls. We have some galleries like forms, like views. We have the business process flows. So if you have to guide a particular user that what they have to what they have to perform next, and what they have to interact with the client, what information they are needing from the client. So these kind of information you don't need to remember. The business process flow is a guided flow that is provided for you. The business rule is basically used to perform any sort of validations on your field level. For example, your phone number is in the correct format, your email is the correct format for required or the mandatory fields. So these kind of things we don't need to write the code. We have the business rules available. We have the tight security available provided by the Microsoft and there is a one extra layer of security of Azure. So these kind of out-of-box features we actually come with, we actually expect from the Power Apps. So that's why it's one of the major and interesting component of the Power Platform. Why should I use the Power Apps? Or the question is, what are the advantage of using Power Apps? One of the major important advantage that I usually feel is it empowers every developer to do more. It's not only provided for the developers, it actually enables or allows the business person, the IT developers or the pro developers to create the app. So if you're not from the technical background, if you're not from the coding skills, because I've experienced this thing that a lot of students, the college students or a lot of IT professional used to afraid of writing the codes, used to afraid the writing the codes, and they are not going in the technical in the technical areas. Why? Because they don't want to dig into the codings or the languages and all this stuff. So Power Apps makes this journey easy for the developers because you don't need to write the code unless you need to design a very complex component. So it is basically a app that is provided by the Microsoft for business person, for IT developers, and for the pro developers as well. It enables your business to innovate. So that is one of the most important thing, that like Power Apps enables a broad range of app scenarios to be created that infuse digital transformation into manual and the outdated process. Most of the business or most of the organization thinks that most of the organization are still using the outdated application or the systems. Why? Because if they want to upgrade it to the new application, they require a lot of manual effort. They required a very good technical persons. They required a very coding guy who can simply transform their outdated application into the digital transformation space. But using the Power Apps, you can simply solve your business problem for a task and the role specific scenarios, especially like inspections, the field sales enablement, the prospect to cash, and integrated marketing views. Another advantage is, another advantage is the build high tailored application. Now, what is the meaning of build high tailored applications? It actually provides you the responsive view. So it's not like that you have to create the Power Apps for the mobile, for the tablet, or for the other kind of the devices. It actually provide you the responsive apps. So start by designing your user experience on the Power Apps. Customize every detail of your app to optimize for specific tasks and roles. It actually provides you a wide range of controls like business card scanners, like camera controls, the audio control, the video streaming control. So these kind of out of box controls enables you to interact with the client with smoothly, integrate and extend your apps. So that is one of the most important thing that I was talking about, that your Power Apps is integrated with 450 plus connectors. So Microsoft has actually provided 450 plus connectors. So they are not only the Microsoft provided or Microsoft created connectors, but they are from the third party connectors as well. So for example, Gmail, Yahoo, and there are some other kind of connectors are available in the market like Twitter, like Facebook. So these are not the Microsoft connectors, but still you can integrate your app with these kind of connectors. So in the earlier version of the Dynamics 365, you need to integrate your application. You need to write a lot of amount of code in order to integrate your application with social media channels or from other any application. But now using these connectors, you can simply interact with any other external applications or the data sources. So either you can use these 450 plus connectors, or you can simply create your own connectors as well. So you can create your custom connectors that fit your business need, and you can expose it into the Dynamics 365, and you can use in the Power Platform as well. One of the basic and one of the most important advantage is the support low code no code that I already discussed about. So as a layman, or as a, if I'm not having a technical background, if you are a college students, or if you are a RT professional who don't know about the Dynamic 365 and Power Platform, and if you have a question that how can I start learning the Power Platform, or how can I start design my Power Apps, and what sort of knowledge I need to have. So I would always say, like, you need to understand, you need to have the basic knowledge of PowerPoint and the Excel. And believe me, the billions of users nowadays are expert in the PowerPoint and the Excel. And I'm damn sure that you don't need to, learn any sort of languages in order to design the slide deck, in order to use the controls that Microsoft provided in the PowerPoint. And you don't need to understand the any language to understand the flows or to understand the Excel formulas. So if you are very good, or if you are a basic knowledge of at least the PowerPoint or the Excel, you can easily understand the Power Apps. You can easily design an application or the Power Apps in half an hour time. What is PowerApps Fx? So before the PowerApps Fx terminology, if someone used to ask me that what is the language I should use to write the Power Apps, to design the Power Apps, because from the developer backgrounds, from the technical background perspectives, anyone can ask this question that okay, I have to design the application, what sort of language I have to use? So the answer is PowerApps Fx. Earlier the answer was I have to use the Excel like formulas, but I didn't know the language name. But recently in the Microsoft Ignite, it has been announced that there is a new language called PowerApps Fx, and this is the language that is going to be unified for complete Power Platform. So this is not the language that is provided by the Microsoft only for the Power Apps design, but going forward, it is going to be the unified language for all the Power Platform component. For example, if you are using a Power Automate, in the Power Automate right now you are using the expressions, but going forward these expressions are going to be converted into the PowerApps FX languages. And going forward in the model driven app, also in the model driven apps you are right now using the JavaScript, the XRM models and all, but going forward, but not the, in the upcoming 1 or 2 years, that is also going to be replaced by the PowerApps FX languages. Okay, so that is the most important thing, that you need to understand the Power Apps FX language. So Microsoft Power FX language is the low-code language for expressing logic across the Microsoft Power Platform. So it's just a fancy name that is provided by the Microsoft, but it's nothing. It's simply like Excel formulas. All right, so it is the same language that is at the heart of the Microsoft Power Apps, Canvas app today's, and inspired by the Microsoft Excel. So those who already had created a lot of Canvas apps and the Power Apps, they already know that they are writing a lot of formulas or the expressions in the FX var, right? So that formula that you are using in the Canvas app is nothing but the language called Power Apps FX. All right, so those who are new, that what is PowerApps Fx, so like you can easily understand with the Excel formula. So let's say I have a 3 column Excel. In the first name, I have put the Arpit, last name is Srivastav, and in the full name, I'm expecting the concatenation of the first name and the last name. So what formula I'm going to use for the third column is concat function, A to represent the second cell of A column, and B2 represent the second cell of the B column. So I'm going to concatenate these two values and separating by the space. So this is the formula I'm going to use in the Excel if I have to concatenate two values of a particular Excel column. Now, if I have the same requirement in the Power Apps, so let's say I have a two columns or the two text boxes where I'm expecting that user is inputting some data. So in the first name, user is inputting their first name, last name is inputting last name, and in the full name, I am expecting that it should be the concatenation of the first name and the last name. So how can I use in the Power Apps? The concat formula, the expression is replaced by the concatenate expressions, and I'm you going to use the first name control dot text. It is nothing but the name of the text box first name, and last name control dot text is the name of the text name control dot text. All right, and I'm just separating it with a space. So how simple it is to understand. So if you have a basic knowledge at least of a Microsoft Excel, you can simply design or simply write the formulas. What is Power Apps Studio? So after the basic knowledge of what is Power Apps and what is the language we use, another question arises in the developer mind is where I should write this code, where should I design the app, what is the control, what is the tool, and what is the designer that is provided by Microsoft where I can design these apps and write the formulas. So the answer is Power Apps Studio. Power Apps Studio is basically an online editor that provided by the Microsoft where you can simply design your application. Whether you want to design the mobile application or the tablet application, you can simply open this editor and can start using or designing the app. So this editor basically has four sections. The first section is the left panel where you usually find all the controls that is being added to design a particular app. For example, your button, your text box, your labels, your drop downs, whatever controls you are adding in your screen, this is going to be added in the left panel. So always remember, the best practices says always use the right name of your control. The second panel is the right panel where you actually change the property of a particular control that you are adding on the screen. So for example, if you are adding a button on the screen and if you want to change the background color of this of the color is to black, then you just change the property from the second section of the studio. The third section is the top toolbar, or you can see the toolbar where it is similar like the Microsoft Word, the PowerPoint, or the Microsoft Excel, where you can simply add the text box control, the images, the galleries, the icons, or some AI building capabilities, or some mixed reality features. So this is the third box or the sections, and the last one is your main screen where you actually see the outcome, where you actually design your app. Let's talk about the PowerApps license. PowerApps license itself is a very broad term, so you need to understand from the licensing perspective that there are basically two types of licenses are there. The first is per app license, and second is the per user plan. So there are two types of pricing, per app and the per user. Per app plan basically restricted only for the per user basis, so you can allow to use only one app per user, and it actually costs you $10 per month. And if you want to use the unlimited apps for a particular user, then you need to use the per user plan, and it costs you around $40 per month. And obviously, if you want to add on something on your Power Apps, for example, if you want to build some website kind of features or the portals, or if you want to add on some kind of AI capabilities like business card scanners and mixed realities and these kind of stuff, then you need to pay extra for that. So for the portals, if you are going to use for the authenticated user, you need to pay $200. If you are using for the anonymous user, for the unauthenticated user, you need to pay $100. And for the AI building capabilities, you need to pay $500. How should I plan a Power Apps project? So according to me, the planning is the most important thing before the implementation part. Because if your planning is poor, then you can mess up everything. So the planning of the Power Apps project is very important. Otherwise, you can you can mess up. You end up with the messing everything that whatever you are implementing in the Power Apps. So in the planning phase, you need to understand the client requirement first, that what is client is looking for, what is the client requirement. If you're not clear about the requirement, then you cannot propose the power apps, because in order to use the power apps, there are hundreds or thousands or millions of the features that Microsoft has provided. So if you're not aware that what client is looking for, what features they are actually looking for, what kind of transformation they are looking in their business, then you cannot propose the power apps. So you need to plan, you need to understand the client requirements clearly. The second phase is the design phase. So that is the most important part, because here you are going to design your app. It is not the actual implementation, it is the mock-up screen design part, where if the client is looking for power apps or some sort of any app they want to design, you simply create some kind of mock-up screen or the wireframes, and you simply get the sign off from the client that they are actually looking for such kind of UI. Then finally you just simply make or simply implement the app or design the app. Your app goes for the testing phase, where your testers will actually test your apps, and finally you deploy and deploy into the target instance. Once you get the feedback from the client, you again follow the same process. You can refine your app. So this is the basic, if you are simply aware about the HDLC cycle. So it is the same way the Power Apps project works. Now the question is there any examples or is there any use cases or the requirements, so that I can simply propose the Power Apps to my client? So this is very useful for the functional consultant or the pre-sales guys who is actually interacting with the client, who are dealing with the client requirement, who is understanding the the organizations the problems, the business complex situations. So what are the some basic examples where we can fit in the Power Apps? So first is the calculation and the transformation. So if you have such kind of requirement like cost estimations, the decision support, field technician app, generating a work order to estimate, project estimation. So if you have these kind of list of requirements, and you are expecting that you need to provide some sort of input, and you need to uh, do some sort of the calculations part, right? And you are expecting some kind of output. So if you have such kind of requirement, then you always use the Power Apps for that purpose. So if I give you the example, for example, if you are if you are designing a sales process in your Dynamic 365, and in the sales process, there is a phase called quotation generation, where you apply the discounts on the products, and a lot of calculation you need to perform. So you can simply design a Canvas app. You can simply pass the product prices or the discount information, and this Canvas app will simply create the calculation and give the output to you, that what should be the final amount that you need to propose the quotation for the client. So this kind of calculation and transformation requirement, you should always use the Power Apps. The second is the communication and announcement. So if you have a requirement where you have to communicate something to your internal employees, you have to announce something. So there are many requirements where if you're working in an organization and HR needs to broadcast some kind of information related to the company policies, related to some kind of news or some learning catalogs or the product catalogs. So for these kind of requirements, you can simply use the Power Apps, where something needs to publish to the to the larger audience. Inspection and audit purpose, so that is also one of the basic need, that if you can simply design a Power Apps for the auditing purpose, for the inspection purpose, especially for the salesperson or the travel agent who is often visiting at the client location, going for the inspection or for the client feedback, or meeting the customers. So you can simply check these kind of requirements like store audit, the supply tracking, and these kind of requirements. You can simply use the Power Apps. Is one of the most important process, where a lot of organizations and businesses use the manual approvals. Still they are using up manual approvals. So for the approvals and all, for example, nowadays we are talking about in the March and April, we actually use the appraisal cycles, and in the appraisal process there are a lot of approvals are needed. Your appraiser, your reviewer, so there are a lot of approval processes are there. If you're talking about your timesheet approval, there are a lot of approvals are there. If you're talking about any sort of any request in your organization, leave request, and there are a lot of approvals requests are there in your organization. So for these kind of requirement, you can simply use the Power Apps. Asset management is also a very important thing where you need to manage your assets or your products in your organization. So for asset checkout, asset rollout, for inventory management, supply order management, where you want to simply get the details of your particular order by scanning the barcode. So you can simply use the AI driven capabilities where you can simply scan or scan the barcode and get the information from your database. So for asset management also you should use the Power Apps. Event management is one of the most important use case where a lot of organization conduct trainings, conducts events, the technically and the non-technical events. So for these purposes, you can create the event management to track your attendance or the attendees. You can create the app for the organizer, for the speakers, for the participants. And the last one is the life cycle of the workflow management. There are various processes that organizations follow where they need to follow a particular process in order to reach to a particular outcome. They need to perform a particular workflow. So for example, employee onboarding. So in the employee onboarding process, they need to get the documentation from the students or from the IT professional. They need to process the document. They need to verify the document. Then they need to allot a particular the manager to that particular employee. And there are a lot of processes involved in this particular process, right? So for life cycle or for the workflow management or the process management, the process management application, you can simply use the Power Apps. Now, who are the customers in this whole world who are actually using the Power Apps? Because we want to understand with the fact that who are the customer, because that is the most important thing before buy any product in the market. If you buy any product in the market, you first ask for the reviews and you first check it out that who are others users or the customer, they are already using this product. So I have collected few, some known and some branded, the customers who are actually using the Power Apps in the various sectors. So the Toyota, the Hyundai Motor Group, IKEA, Pepsi, Virgin Atlantic, ABN AMRO, True Green, Subway, Etihad Airways, Heathrow Airport, Yamaha, Puma, Panasonic, and the PayPal. So these are the some giant client or the customers who are actually using the Power Apps in their real world projects. So the idea behind is it's not only that a specific sector of the domain of the users are using Power Apps. If you talk about the retail sector, the IKEA is one of the largest retail organization in the Europe. So they are also using the Power Apps. ABN AMRO is one of the banking in the Netherlands. They are also using the Power Apps. So if I talking about the banking sectors, the ABN AMRO is using that. If I talk about the automobile sectors, so Yamaha, Toyota, Hyundai, so these are the companies who are using Power Apps. If I talk about the retail sectors, the IKEA, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, so these are the companies are using Power Apps. If I talk about the airline sectors, so Heathrow Airport, the Etihad Airways, so these are the some airline sectors or the businesses or the organization that are using. And not only from these sectors, even the payment gateways are also using the Power Apps for the payment processing like PayPal. That's all for today, folks, and thanks for watching this video. Hope you find this video very helpful for you. So this is just the introduction of the Power Apps. So stay tuned for the next video. In the next video, I'm going to discuss about what are the types of Power Apps. So thanks for your time. Stay tuned and stay safe. Goodbye.